Good morning.
Feels a little muscle memory coming in here. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the Auburn Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, located on occupied ancestral land of the Muscogee Creek Nation. My name is Rothbauer, and I will be serving as service associate today. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves, including pieces which might be ashamed of. All of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us are ready to have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet, because our hearts have been beat up a little bit this week, and we may have forgotten how to trust and be open. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised, you are welcome among us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in this space is powerful and life-giving. Together, we affirm that this day, and our being together, can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. We welcome you here. On behalf of the members of the fellowship, I extend a special welcome to all visitors and those of you who are here for the first time and still feel like visitors. If you're not already done so, please fill out our visitor book at the front of the greeters, or digitally by visiting auf.org/visitors. You may also contact our minister, Reverend Chris Rothbauer, at minister@auuf.org with any questions or concerns you may have. As we prepare for our service this morning, please remember to turn your phone and other electronic devices to silent or off. Let us move into the service willing to be authentic with each other, honest within ourselves, and open to connection in all of its forms.
Our opening words are from Andrea Hawkins Camper. Gather we now into this space, this time, when the wheel turns and the veil shatters. Gather we now to remember, to grieve, to prophecy, to complete our harvest before the long dark comes. Gather we now to tell the old stories and sing the old songs, to be as we have always been, the voice of our people, eternal. Gather we now to celebrate that which was, that which is, and that which will be. Gather we now, as we always have done, united by story and bound by love.
We light our chalice this morning with these words from Florence Catlow. As we kindle the flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. The brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments. And their love continues to bless the world through us. And as our tradition, we also light a candle in solidarity with those families separated at our southern border. Our opening hymn, hymn number 96, in the grave hymnal, I cannot think of them as dead.
You know, when I got up here to do my opening words this morning, I thought, geez, how long has it been since I've been behind this pulpit? And I realized it's only been 2 months. The reason why it seems so amazing is because I now have people before me, other than Daryl and Martha and Laura and Ralph. It is so amazing to be back here in our building this morning. Hopefully that will continue for a long time to come. But I thought that we should commemorate this day with a rededication of this building that so many of you have told me is so important to you. We ask blessings on this, our fellowship home. May this building be a tool to continue doing the good work of our helping hands, our loving hearts, and our open minds. May this home be safe harbor for all who sail upon the sea of life, and a beacon of hope to those on rough waters. May this building be a garden rooted with truth, compassion, and love, and blossoming into peace, liberty, and justice. We give thanks for the generous people who made this building possible. We are grateful for the continued benevolence of the universe. Let us not forget those outside our walls who still struggle with their own needs for shelter and nourishment of the body and of the soul. We ask blessing on this, our fellowship home. And may COVID eternally stay down so that we may remain. Can I get an amen? Amen. That's a B.
One of the ways we proclaim the warmth and caring of our community is by sharing our joys, concerns, and milestones. If you are joining us virtually, we invite you to type your joy, concern, or milestone in the YouTube chat box. We invite those in person one at a time, to drop a pebble in our communal bowl during the music for meditation. Do you have a silent joy?
Thank everyone who supported me and thought of me and wrote me a note and made a pot of soup on the stove and shared it with me for what I had my thyroidectomy. And I want to thank you for your thoughts and your concern.
If you haven't spoken, Joy, we're going to, after the music for meditation, invite you over to the microphone. So please be ready for that.
I invite you, if you have a joy, concern, or milestone, would like to say it aloud, to come forward one at a time and briefly share it into the microphone.
I'm Connie Westlaw, by my name too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, get closer.
Oh, this is more of an announcement than anything.
Connie, step closer.
Much closer.
Oh, like this.
There you go, that's it.
This is, I don't know if it's a concern or what, but I have to place my husband Ralph in assisted living. I just could not take care of him any longer. And he's at his attic place. And I go, it's very close by my house, it's about 15 minutes drive, and I go and visit him every day, except when it's the game traffic. So I couldn't go yesterday, but anyway. At first I was very concerned because all he did was sleep. But Friday I was encouraged because he was all set to go to the wine and cheese. They have many activities, and he was participating in nothing. But anyway, Friday he got there, he said, it's time for the wine and cheese. So I was encouraged.
honor to the powers that be, sir, Chris, everyone. I come to you this morning as a Christian to acknowledge my implicit bias for non-Christian. You know, I'm here this morning. I know everybody doesn't have the same beliefs, but that's probably the good thing about this group of people. Not everyone has the exact same beliefs, but we can learn from each other and we can learn to broaden our perspectives. I had a chance to learn about that in online training I had this past week with Moms Demand Action. If you're familiar with that group, they've had several meetings. They had several meetings here before the pandemic. We're still meeting. And I have been asked by a couple of their leaders there to be an interfaith lead. And I have accepted the challenge and the responsibility. So I'm now going through online training. And at the appropriate time, it's not going to be soon, it's going to be a little while. I may be getting with you on other matters later, and hopefully Moms Demand Action can meet again in person here among other things. So I'm here to acknowledge those two things, and also this is the first time I've been here since y'all started meeting again virtually and online. I just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about you all. You could, in your meditation, if you could think of my implicit biases and concerns, I would appreciate it very much.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
What is Mom's?
Moms Demand Action. It's the organization dealing with the purposes of gun safety in America. We're also affiliated with every town for gun safety, and we are pushing hard to stop gun violence in any way, form, or fashion. And I'm also asked to work more with the Be Smart campaign for kids, but for anybody really. So hopefully you will see me involved with the moms group as we try to make our community more peaceful now than it has been. We could use all the peace we can get. I thank you very much.
Good morning, my name is Carter. Other than the obvious joy that I think many of us share, which is being back in this space, I have a joy / announcement. I am so thrilled to get to be a part of live theater again. You know, the world is starting to come back little by little. And I'm a part of a show that the community theater is doing. It is a Broadway musical review, so it's 15 different songs from different shows throughout the years. And it opens this Friday, so I'm in my element when I get to sing. So I'm very excited to get to do that again. And of course, extend the invitation. I will email out all the details if anyone is interested in attending, but we'll have shows Friday night, Saturday night, next Sunday afternoon, and then the following Monday night as well.
Hey, I'm Billy. I had a joy that my mom got to come down and visit for a week. It was really nice getting to spend some time with her. We spent some time up in Huntsville and cleaned out my aunt's garage because that's what me and mom did for fun. Yeah.
Thank you to all who have shared your joys, concerns, and milestones this morning. We have one written joy submitted beforehand. Michael Klein shares a concern. Lisa Nathan's oldest son, Alex Adelaide Gashner, passed away last Thursday, losing consciousness in flight to Colombia for business. He was 37. He leaves behind his son, Sterling, who turned 7 this year. May all the joys, concerns, and milestones of this community, those shared aloud and those held in silence, be received to the care and concern of all present.
Please join me in the spirit of contemplation in whatever way feels right with these words from Kathleen McTeague. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in their choice for living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn out by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them, choose the deeper path of living. Blessed be.
The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission. To make a donation online, visit PayPal. Please visit auuf.org/donate. If you're writing a check, please make your check payable to AUF, with a note on the memo line about whether it is for the offering or your pledge, and drop it in the offering bowl, or mail it to P.O. Box 669, Auburn, Alabama 36831. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Carter. Those
Today's
stalwart
reading
few.
is The Sacred Thread by Heather K. Janulis. They once dwelt among us, the people of memory. They who knew us, they who taught us, they who heard us, they who loved us. They touched our lives time and again, through their presence and their absence, through familiar scents and favorite songs, through old stories and renewed sorrow. As the earth turns and leaves fall, we reach back to renew the bonds between us. With hearts and hands open, we hold onto love, ever stronger than death. We reach back in gratitude and understanding. Without our time together, the pain and the joy, we would never be who we are today. We would have little to pass on ourselves. Without fear, with thanksgiving and with hope for all that awaits, we remember those who have gone before. We honor the circle of life and death and our place within this sacred thread.
If you were here last week, I preached on Samhain, and it was really kind of a prelude service for this one, because Samhain at its core is about remembering the ancestors, or it's the term that many scholars have taken to calling it veneration of the dead. Veneration of the dead has been a part of most religions since antiquity. The idea of paying attention to our honored dead, both those who are blood ancestors and those who are spiritual predecessors, remains one of the widest held spiritual practices, showing up in pagan and indigenous religions on every continent except Antarctica, as the penguins haven't quite mastered it yet, as well as some religions such as Buddhism and Hinduism. Throughout major political, economic, and religious shifts and changes, ancestor veneration remains a popular way for people to connect with those who played a meaningful role in their lives. I first encountered it in Shinto when I was in Japan for a month, where ancestors were held up as models for us to follow, and special dates were made for people to travel to their graves and pay respect to them. Yet what I've come to realize since then is that in many political circles, especially in those descended from Protestant Christianity, there's a prejudice towards the practice. Although it's not worship in the same way that a god is worshipped, some scholars have taken to referring to ancestor veneration as ancestor worship, and are strongly prejudiced against the practice, with some even speculating that it will eventually die out and be replaced by the more enlightened worship of a deity, enlightened in quotation marks. Yet, ancestor worship over the last few decades has become even more popular in Japan. Some say that traditional Buddhism has even been supplanted there because Shinto ancestor worship has become so popular. Yet for many in our Western world, it's inconceivable we would want to pay respect to those who have come before us, to the point that such attitudes sometimes remind me of the discarding of deceased companion animals I mentioned during our animal blessing service this year. I was caught in the middle of this prejudice. I grew up without a good sense of who I am, and my family didn't often talk about where we came from. There were a lot of secrets in our family. As a result, I rarely heard around the dinner table about who my family was or where we came from. I still have some envy today when I meet people who have a sense of belonging to a family greater than themselves, because I've still struggled to find connections on some sides of my family. When I encounter cultures where it's common to know not only who your family were generations back, but also have rich stories to tell about these people, I feel like I missed out on something by not learning about where I came from. In fact, it's one of the disadvantages of white supremacy culture that many white people in the United States never have a sense of their ancestors, because those same ancestors tried so hard to erase who they were and become part of the melting pot. There was so much secrecy that I latched onto what I could. When I found out my last name was German, I got really excited and made it a part of my identity, eventually minoring in German in college. And when I found out my great-grandfather was part of an ethnic German group living in what's now Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, I traveled there to try to connect with my roots, though I don't speak Slovak, so I didn't go knocking on doors to people who mistook my last name. Since then, especially as I've been exposed to traditions such as Buddhism, Shinto, and Druidry, part of my spirituality has been to recover some of this ancestor veneration. In my spiritual director course, I recently bemoaned that I wasn't raised with such a practice, but have had to find ways to honor my ancestors on my own. It's not been easy because it's meant I've needed to venture beyond the culture I was raised in, to find something bigger than myself that I'm a part of, a larger human family. I suspect this is also what pushed me to trace my family tree. I wanted to know where I came from, what the people were like who created me, and find a greater sense of belonging in the long view of human history. I haven't always liked the stories I've encountered. Like most families, we were imperfect, and there are scoundrels in my family tree as well as saints. Yet they are a part of me, even in their imperfection, and I relish the opportunity to learn about them and the world they lived in. For they teach me how to be a better person, remind me where I came from, and challenge me to consider where I'm going. In the words of Irish novelist Frank Delaney, to understand and reconnect with our stories, the stories of our ancestors, is to build identities. And I realize that even as I preach this sermon, that family trees are in many ways a privilege. And there are some people who, due to colonization and forced relocation and slavery, will never be able to trace where they came from. Yet I think that's a reason why all those DNA tests you see advertised nowadays to determine the ethnicity of your ancestors are so popular right now. I believe that within each of us is a yearning to understand our place in the greater story of our planet, to remember those who came before us. Sometimes this manifests negatively, such as through racist and nationalist sentiments. But at its best, I think it can bring us together and remind us who we are and how interconnected we are. That's what's so magical for me about holidays like Samhain and two of its Christian offshoots, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. It gives an opportunity to intentionally remember that we were formed by communities greater than ourselves. It's a chance to step back and think of the people, both known and unknown, who have made us, and to offer just a little respect to those people without whom we wouldn't be where we are. And that's why I'm so happy, since I've been here, to continue the tradition of the Day of Remembrance for our fellowship. Because I believe we need to be a remembering people. We need to remember where we came from. We need to remember who formed us and without whom we wouldn't be here. This fellowship has been here 60 years this year. Do y'all realize that? I bet Conrad feels it. It allows us to express where we came from. In a moment, we'll name some of our congregational ancestors before you have a chance to honor some of your personal ones. The naming of where we came from, it's a recognition of the people who made you who you are today. And even if you didn't bring anything to your altar, you still can come up. Because we all have a place within the great chain of the universe, as each one of us will one day be an ancestor as well, either a blood ancestor or a spiritual ancestor. As American businessman Lee Lu reminds us, whatever you are, it is because of what your ancestors have done. And it reminds us to be good ancestors. I mentioned that some of my ancestors did shady things in their days. I honor them and forgive them just the same, because I hope one day those who come after me will recognize that I was also an imperfect human being, doing my best in imperfect circumstances. I hope history will judge me kindly, and that others will be proud to name me as one of those who made their life possible. So whether this is your first time or your 20th participating in our Day of Remembrance, imagine that all the people we honor today in many ways helped shape you. If not for each of them, you wouldn't be here, and our congregation would be a very different place. So as we honor them, let's think of them as essential parts of ourselves. And may Unitarian Universalism always be a faith that recognizes we did not birth ourselves, and that the world we love depends on what we do in the here and now. May it be so. I'd like to invite Robert and Amy up to help me with this next part. So today, as we remember those loved ones we have lost this past year, let us also remember those in our fellowship who have gone before us. May their sacrifices to build this congregation inspire us to live up to their memories, and may their spirits always inhabit our service, wherever it may go.
We first honor the founders of our fellowship, without whose vision for our liberal spiritual community in the Auburn and Pulaski area, we would not be here today. Jerry Roden, Harry J. Ameling, Charles Geary, George Guerin, Emmett Reeder, Spencer G. Douglas, Norman A. Britton, Vida Green, Roger Kelly, Charles H. Bonny, Bob Howells, Emmy K. Peruta, Mary Garrett, Walter H. Greenleaf, and Marjorie Kelly.
We also honor those ministers who have served our congregation in the past and recognize their legacy as continuing with us today. Reverend Bob Hill, Extension Minister, 1982 to 1983. Reverend Arthur E. Art Curtis, Extension Minister, 1984 to 1987. Reverend Mary Catherine Morin, Extension Minister, 1988 to 1989. Joan Armstrong, Intern Minister, 1989. Reverend Barb James Stone, Extension Minister, 1989 to 1993. Reverend Diana Jordan Alinde, settled minister, now Minister Emerita, 1993 to 2016. Reverend Pamela Derkey, interim minister, 2016 to 2018. And Reverend Marty Keller, contract minister, 2018 to 2019.
And we honor those members of our fellowship who have passed on before us, remembering that their work continues with each of us. Alice Collier, Myra Provo, Anthony Tony Crumpton, Natalie Provo, Ed Schlesinger, Helen Schlesinger, Robert Golden, Lillian White, Norman Perry.
Francis Perry, Ann Ward Huey, Robert E. Hyde, Helen Dowdy, Ed Clark, Alberta McMillan, Carlston Kit Holland, Tim Kramer, Kay Stevens, Jerry Roden.
Norman Britton, Jean Henderson, Michelle Smith, Carolyn Havens, Rebecca Coco Rousseau, Judy Booth, Leonard Blanton, George Guerin, Hazel Blanton, Mary Guerin,
Vida Greenleaf, Charles D. Bush, Walter Greenleaf, Ruth C. Chip Bush, Mae Persons, Harry White, Jesse Summers, Kenneth William Walters,
Gloria Bowman, Carl Summers Jr., Cassidy Gaia Meadows, Paul Starr, Michael Hine, Jeffrey Bastachek, Charlotte Miller,
Debbie Bettis, Lisa Harry Nathan, Nanette E. Chadwick, Ann Pearson, Janice Ross, Christopher Noah Allende.
We also honor those spiritual ancestors we lost in the last year. Charles, Chuck Rossi, and Eddie Peak.
May all of our spiritual ancestors ever be with us in spirit and memory, and may we be faithful keepers of the work they began. May we be keepers of the flame they lit throughout the 60-year life of this fellowship. Blessed be. In this season of shorter days and longer nights, we remember not just those we've loved and lost, but all who have died. We honor our loved ones with pictures, tokens, and candles. Through this simple ritual, composed of the most ordinary acts, may we understand more deeply the greatest miracle and mystery of life and death that connects us to all that was and ever shall be. On this day of memory and gratitude, we remember the many whose love and nurture helped us grow into who we are today. With thanksgiving, we remember our religious ancestors whose courage, hard work, faithfulness, and sacrifice gifted us with this free faith, these sacred grounds, and this beloved community. As we mourn those who have passed from this life and into eternity, let us also praise the miracle and mystery that gave them to us in the first place. So at this time, I would like to invite you to come forward one at a time. Due to COVID, please don't form a line during this, but come up one at a time. But I want to invite you to come forward and let's light one tea light so that whether you have more than one ancestor you want to remember or not, to make sure everyone has enough tea lights. But I want to invite you to honor them and light them in honor of the person or people who you want to remember. And if you wish, I want to invite you to speak your loved one's name and your relationship to them into the microphone. To make sure everyone has time to remember their loved one, I ask that we save stories for coffee hour, but that we name them in this service. Once you are finished at the table, please return to your seat. You may come forward as you are ready.
Henry Pittman Banks, my mother.
Rhoda Paris Larson, Eric Larson's mother.
My parents, Kim Zabawa and Miriam Gonzalez Zabawa, and close colleague and friend, Hyacinth Finley.
Carl, Jackie, well, Jackie's still alive, sorry, Mom. Alice, Red, Lucille, Edgar, Moselle, and Ray. My dad and my grandparents.
Drummond Auburn, my grandfather.
Jane Davies, my great-great-grandmother, who I was named after.
In honor of Veterans Day on Thursday, I would like to recognize my late father, Earl Walter Denmark Sr., and my uncle Robert Richard Denmark Jr., and of course all my ancestors tracing back here to America and England and Africa.
Camilla Karbowska Boris. I'm named for her. She was my mother's mother. And she came at 16 to the United States through Ellis Island.
My dad, Chris Jacobson, died in July this year.
Light a candle for my mother, Catherine Morgan Jensen.
My grandmother, Terry Baskier, and Rich McMahon, who was like a surrogate mother. Lost them both this year.
My mother, Barbara Newton, and my grandfather, John Wade.
My wife, Janice Ross, Janice Koenig Ross. And all of those women in black who stood on the corner, Tumors Corner, over the years. Someone just recently sent me a list of them. There are over 50. About 4 of them had passed away. Gloria Bowman, Coco Rousseau, Natalie, Provo, Chip Bush, and my wife, Janice.
Kim Walters died 6 years ago.
Clayton and Edith Kohler, my great-grandparents. Vincent and Madeline Scotch, my grandparents. And Gordon and Pamela Scotch, my parents.
Holland by Emilius, my grandparents, Millie Wright, my mom.
My mom, Wendy Elizabeth Bradley Wood. My dad, Joseph Roberts Wood Jr. His father, Joseph Roberts Wood. And his wife, my grandparents, Lydie Graham-Bell Wood.
I like to mark angles for anyone else who is unspoken this morning. I hope that you will share stories of your loved ones during the coffee hour this morning. For those from lands both near and far who have died after living long, fulfilling lives, and all whose lives were lost too soon, for those who died yearning to return home, and all crossing new borders in search of a better life, for those who died in captivity, whether physical, emotional, or mental, and for all those who lost their lives in natural or human-made disasters, for those who died in the midst of war, violence, and fear, and all who died by their own hands. We light candles in remembrance of all souls, in honor of everyone, both known and unknown to us, who has died. Let us honor them, remember them, and recommit ourselves to building a better world for their children's children. May it be so. Our closing hymn is number 101 in the great hymnal, Abide With Me.
Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. You will find the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Also, I'd like to thank Amy and Laura for this wonderful altar. And please talk with them about the arrangement. Everything here has significance for what our service is about today. Please be our guest today after the service for our coffee hour outside near the Bush Center. This is an opportunity to check in with folks about the service and how our week has gone. If you're not signed up with our email list, please make sure to do so to receive updates about ways to connect. You can find information on signing up at our website, auuf.org/subscribe. I think we have an announcement.
Just a couple of upcoming announcements. On November 21st at 6 p.m., our congregation will be hosting on the grounds a Trans Day of Remembrance Vigil that's in honor of transgender people who have been murdered in the last year. I don't know that it's the first time it's ever been in Auburn, but it's the first time that many of us remember. And I'm working with other area leaders to get it off the ground, including Pride on the Plains and PFLAG. So I hope you'll be able to make it for that. And also mark your calendar For December 15th at 6:30, we will be having a Blue Christmas service. It's the first time we've ever done this, but the idea behind it is the holidays tend to be enforced joyousness, and maybe you don't feel like being joyful this year. So this is to give you a chance to come and be however you are.
Bah humbug.
Yes, exactly, bah humbug, if you want to be. So I hope you'll be able to join us. It's a much more contemplative service than most of them you've probably been used to, but I hope that it will be a success.
I brought some food. I'll put it out.
Can we bring it outside because we can't do eating indoors with COVID? We can't do eating indoors with COVID. It's not safe.
Okay, well, we're gonna put it in the kitchen.
I wonder if Peter has an announcement of a certain activity coming up?
Well, it's not enforced enjoyment and joyousness. It's joyousness that comes naturally at the auction. The auction is coming down the pipe. You'll get here Friday evening, December 3rd. That's the live auction. In days to come, we'll reach out to you to help us. We have many needs, things that need to be done. The little itty-bitty auction committee can't do it themselves, and they're really simple things. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to donate your talents or some wonderfully valuable object that you can't stand anymore, you can get in contact with me, that's fine. There's another component traditionally of the auction, which is the silent auction. It won't be on the Friday night, but I think Laura will tell us how that's going to work.
So our silent auction will be off-site at 1008 Old Mill Road, which is just down the street. You take a right, then you take the first left, and you go down to 1008. It'll be on the right, just past Oak Street. Anyway, it will be on Thursday the 18th from 2 to 4, the 19th from 6 to 8 p.m., the 20th from 6 to 8 p.m., and Sunday the 21st from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. So we've got 2 afternoons and 2 evening times, 2 hours apiece, and that's to ensure social distancing for those who would like to stay socially distant, but gives you an opportunity to bid on all of these wonderful, marvelous items. There's about 100 of them, so you have lots to see. So you might want to take your time too. And you do not have to come back, as Carter had asked a couple of weeks ago. If there's something you really want to bid on and you show up on Thursday, you can give to me your highest bid for that item or items that you would like. And I'll make sure that if your figure is the highest, that you would get that. So, but all that will be, I'll be there the whole time. So, see you then. Everybody comes. Invite your friends.
Okay, finally, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. Get the word out. Please join us now for our song benediction.
Go forth into the world in peace, bring of the courage, all fast that which is good, go forth into the world in peace, all people rejoicing in the power of the Spirit. Go in peace.
Our benediction is by Layla Duran Jones. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love, and may we go forth from this time and place. Let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.
Thank you.